If you didn't believe that the deep state existed after watching Attorney General Jeff Sessions testify before Congress this week, you should now. I don't know what the problem is, but I'm telling you, there is one. When Russia sells 20% of America's uranium, when the Clinton Foundation gets $145 million, when Bill gets a $500,000 speaking fee from the Kremlin-connected company financing the deal, when Buddy Barack allows Bill to meet with the head of the Russian Nuclear Energy Commission, and the Obama administration's Committee on Foreign Investment approves the sale, tone deaf to the concerns of Republican national security experts. No surprise, 7 of the 9 CFIUS members who approved the sale are connected to the Clinton Foundation. There's a problem, folks, and that problem needs to be investigated. So what's the problem? Why isn't this in front of a grand jury? Why no special counsel? Why is it so difficult for Jeff Sessions to answer a straight question? Why does it appear he's not even clear on whether and what he's recused from? Take a look.
Do you have the authority today, subject to your recusal, to appoint a special counsel to investigate the Uranium One matter?
I believe I do.
Do you have the authority to appoint a special counsel to investigate the Fusion GPS dossier?
I don't believe that I should be talking about and evaluating cases here today. So if I'm not recused, I have the authority, yes, and the duty and the responsibility to make that decision.
And why does it take him months to respond to a congressional oversight committee? His response wouldn't even need to be made public.
But my concern is we sent you a letter 3.5 months ago asking for a second special counsel. And if you're now just considering it, what's it going to take to get a special counsel?
It would take a factual basis that meets the standards of the appointment of a special counsel.
Factual basis? Okay, let's try a different angle. The Clinton campaign and the DNC, which we now know were one and the same, much to Bernie's detriment, and the FBI all pay the author of a fake dossier to muddy up Donald Trump, your president, who appointed you, Mr. Attorney General, which dossier was presumably used by Jim Comey once he dropped it on the president's desk as a basis for a FISA application that could then be used to surveil Americans associated with Trump, which Americans were then illegally unmasked by the 17 intelligence agencies who themselves were suddenly unmasked, thus creating a kangaroo third world justice system where money, power, and the FBI are joined at the hip. And if that isn't worth looking at, then I'm from Mars. And if you did watch that hearing, did you even get a straight answer from the Attorney General? Does he even know the parameters of his own recusal? So how and when are we going to get answers? We already know it takes years for Congress to get responses. Predictions are that the release of Hillary's State Department and Benghazi emails won't be completed until 2020. Now, that's no way to run a government, but it's a real way to hide the truth, or at least cut the guilty a break. It's no wonder the Congress's approval rating is 15%, its disapproval 74%. So what needs to be done? In a few minutes, you'll hear from 2 congressmen determined to get answers. They believe they can successfully and in a timely fashion investigate and get answers. They will subpoena witnesses, bring people in to do depositions, ask for documents, do public hearings. But it must be on a timely schedule. None of this. Ask for a document, wait 3 months, not get the document. 6 months later, consider a subpoena. Wait until the subpoena comes or doesn't come. Basically, running out the scandal clock. The congressional committees need to be supported by leadership, congressional leadership, That means Paul Ryan, Kevin McCarthy, Mitch McConnell, they need to buck up, take responsibility, and get everyone on board. Leadership needs to be in full agreement with committee members, willing to go the distance, willing to go wherever that evidence takes them. And as for the witness who brought Russia's corrupt efforts to pay off whomever they needed to access the United States uranium to the FBI and was then gagged so he couldn't spill the beans on the Clintons, well, he's now going to talk to Congress. There's already an effort to discredit him, which I find rather amusing, given the fact that this businessman was a key witness for the Department of Justice and the FBI, and the left that's attacking him hasn't even heard from him. I don't believe the left can even handle the truth. Now, those same two congressmen are going to tell you that they intend to ask the president to declassify the very application that was used to get the FISA warrant during the campaign. This will tell us whether the dossier created by Hillary and the DNC, and we believe paid for by the FBI as well, is part of the fake FISA application that created the surveillance of Donald Trump and those people connected to the campaign. So to those who say another special counsel serves no purpose, this must stop, I say baloney. I say law and order and truth and justice are the very foundations of this republic. And I am tired of the powerful and the Clintons being above the law that each and every one of us must follow. But Hillary says
this appears to be the politicization of the Justice Department and our justice system. This Uranium One story has been debunked countless times by members of the press, by independent experts. It is nothing but a false charge. This is such an abuse of power, and it goes right at the rule of law.
Pray tell, Hillary, first of all, who's debunked it? The truth? Hillary is from the school of lie, deny, and delay. She and the Obama administration have thwarted Congress at every turn. Investigations are drawn out for so long that America's collective memory fades to the point where no one really cares anymore, which is just what the plan was in the first place. Look, I was a judge. It's real simple. If someone is subpoenaed and there's no response, you hold that person in contempt. You take a look at the facts, you prosecute, and if justified, you put them in jail. We have a system of laws that we, as an ordered society, have agreed to adopt, follow, and enforce. And even though I'm not on the bench anymore, and even though I'm not the DA anymore, I am going to continue to fight to get honest answers. I don't like when people lie, and I don't like when people try to take advantage of others. Now, I'm going to tell you, my audience, I've gotten some major pushback from people, but I'm still a believer. I still believe in truth and justice. The Department of Justice is the last resort, and I'm still a believer. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram, #JudgeJeanine.
Wade Smith is a radio host in Alabama. He joins me now with more on what Alabama voters are saying about this particular race. Wade, thank you so much for joining us. We just listened to Peter's report. I want to put up a poll for some of our viewers. This shows that Doug Jones is seeing about 50% of the support in the state of Alabama. This is a Democratic senatorial candidate here that we're talking about, seeing 50% of the support. What do you make of this? Is this what you're hearing from some of your listeners?
I think it's a mixed bag in Alabama right now. Roy Moore's supporters are going to stay on his side. You will not see any of those supporters back down, no matter what the circumstance, no matter what evidence is provided. There could be photos or videos from 40 years ago, and these supporters aren't going to step down. Doug Jones is very outspoken right now. He's getting a lot of support from people, but those that are kind of left in the middle are those Republicans that weren't on Roy Moore's side in the first place that have to choose now between a Democrat or somebody that maybe they don't really feel like they can trust in D.C.
You know, we had a columnist on earlier, and he said basically the same thing. He said Roy Moore will never drop out of this race. Anyone who thinks he will is delusional. So my question is if he does not win this race, then what? Are we going to hear that it was stolen from him? Are we going to see more divide between the establishment and the populist movement? What's going to happen after that?
Well, we've already seen Judge Roy Moore stand up and say that he feels like Mitch McConnell and the establishment's trying to steal this away from him. He had a press conference on Thursday with a big banner that said #StandWithRoyMoore and says that Mitch McConnell's trying to steal this. The establishment's trying to steal this. These are the people that attacked Donald Trump. And to me, this is all just to cover up and to try to deflect from the allegations and the accusations that are coming out against Judge Roy Moore, it seems like every day. Nearly 10 accusers now have come out against Judge Roy Moore, and he's dragging the state of Alabama through the mud. It's time for him to step down. It really is.
Okay, so we had the scenario if he doesn't win. I'm sort of curious as if he does win, because you just brought up Mitch McConnell. I mean, those are two people who are going to have to work together. They may not even be able to work together. So what could happen if he does win and the divide gets even deeper?
I don't think that they will work together very well. I didn't think that Roy Moore going to D.C., even before all these allegations came out, was going to be able to work with a lot of the senators that are on the Hill from the Republican side of the party, or the Democratic side of the party for that matter. And now this is just going to make it even worse. The stain of these allegations is going to follow him to Washington, D.C. And I really wonder, is it a real possibility that the Senate could expel him if he is elected to the seat?
That's sort of what I was alluding to. I want to ask you also, if he does win, I'm sort of curious what that does with sort of even the evangelical vote and the divide that we're seeing there, because we heard the governor come out and support him. This is a female governor. We heard all the women yesterday come out in that press conference that we saw in Peter's report. But there's also a moral divide here, because people may be voting for him on his stance on issues. But what about those who are conflicted morally or for religious reasons?
I think there's a lot of conflict there, but unfortunately it does not come with his staunch base. They have just seemed to stay with him no matter what has happened. But I myself, as a Republican voter in the state of Alabama, am conflicted. I don't know what to do when I walk into that voting booth on December 12th, because I don't want to send a man to Washington, D.C. that has this stain on these allegations. A lot of people are calling it ick factor. It's just not good right now in the state of Alabama, and a lot of Republicans are in a very, very tough spot.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. I wanted to, as we wrap it up, you know, when you hear your listeners call in, this must be a huge conflict for them.
Oh, it absolutely is. The calls have been nonstop across multiple cities where we have radio stations. I've talked to voters in Gadsden, I've talked to voters in Birmingham and Tuscaloosa and many other cities, and his base seems to be staying with him, but the ones that are conflicted are very conflicted. And a huge sticking point seems to be the whole why now thing, but I think it's finally time, with all these Hollywood allegations with Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey, that women are finally emboldened, brave enough and strong enough to be able to come forward and not feel like they're going to get drug over the coals. And right now these accusers seem to be going that direction. Yeah,
we talked a lot about the accuser stories and the fact that they have fairly similar accounts. And like you said, they didn't know each other, and this is a very conflicting issue for a lot of your listeners and voters in Alabama. So all eyes will be on Alabama on December 12th. We'll be watching. And Wade, thank you so much for joining us, sir. We very much appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.